intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being.
Hello and welcome to News9 Live. I'm Sumaira Khan, and now let's have a look at what's happening around the world at this moment. The war between Israel and Hamas has entered the 44th day. There is no end to the fighting. Israel is now looking to expand its operations into southern Gaza, while a deal to release the hostages still seems far away. Let's take a look at the top developments from the war front. More than 12,000 Palestinians have been killed in the war, as per the Gaza Health Ministry. This includes close to 5,000 children who have been killed. 1.5 million Palestinians have been displaced inside Gaza. US President Joe Biden has urged the international community to help manage the security of the Gaza Strip for an interim period after the war, to be followed eventually by Palestinian Authority governance. Benjamin Netanyahu says no ceasefire deal yet to bring Israeli hostages home. Protests across Israel to pressurize government to bring back hostages. Also, WHO officials say that Al-Shifa is now a death zone after finding mass grave at hospital entrance. The Israeli Defense Forces are continuing their operations in northern Gaza. At least 80 people were killed in an Israeli airstrike on the refugee camps located in Jabalia in northern Gaza. The Israeli strikes are not just limited to northern Gaza, with the forces expanding their operations in southern Gaza. At least 26 people were killed in an airstrike outside the southern town of Khan Yunis. Operations have been expanded in southern Gaza after military spokesperson Daniel Hagari said that Israeli forces would attack Hamas wherever they are. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has once again said that there is no ceasefire deal yet to bring Israeli hostages back. This after the Washington Post reported that Israel, the US and Hamas were close to an agreement to release close to 50 hostages in exchange for a 5-day pause in fighting. Netanyahu, however, reiterated that Israel was committed to bringing all the hostages back. He said that the return of hostages could happen in phases, but would definitely happen. Even though Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that the government will bring back the hostages held by Hamas, anger among people across Israel is growing over the delay. Thousands of people gathered at the renamed Hostages Square in front of the Tel Aviv Museum of Art to support the families demanding the return of their loved ones. The families of the 239 hostages are also planning to file a lawsuit demanding to bring back the hostages as soon as possible. In Jerusalem as well, thousands of people marched on the highway, calling upon the Israeli government to do more in order to secure the release of hostages held in captivity by Hamas. Protests are also taking place all across the globe, with people from several countries taking to the streets to call for ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. In Spain, a giant Palestinian flag hovered in Barcelona's Las Ramblas, where hundreds of demonstrators shouted their support for Palestinians trapped in Gaza, condemning the Israeli bombardment of the enclave. In Germany, pro-Palestinian marches were held in Berlin. About 2,500 protesters demanded a free Palestine in chants as they walked through the streets, calling for Israel to stop the war on Gaza. German police officials were also present at the spot to ensure the protests were held in a peaceful manner. Pro-Palestinian protests also took place in London, with protesters waving Palestinian flags and placards as they marched in one of several protests held across the British capital. The protesters also demanded a ceasefire in the war. Streets in a show of solidarity with the Palestinians. They also raised slogans against the Israeli government and condemned Israel's bombardment in Gaza. In Bahrain's Muharraq city, also people gathered in hundreds to condemn the Israeli actions in Gaza and called for a ceasefire. As the humanitarian crisis in Gaza deepens, India is making its contribution to assist the people of Palestine. India has now sent 32 tons of aid in a C-17 aircraft for the people of Palestine who are facing one of the worst humanitarian crises in the history. The aid will be first sent to Al Arish airport in Egypt and will then be taken into Gaza. Israeli airstrikes killed dozens in southern Gaza. Israel is warning Palestinians to relocate as it prepares for an assault on Hamas in southern Gaza, where at least 47 people were killed in Israeli strikes on residential blocks. Gaza's death toll rises to 12,300.
Gaza resident Iyad Zaim says his family had nothing to do with Hamas and had moved to the enclave south after Israel's military warned people to evacuate the north. On Saturday, he was mourning the loss, he said, of his aunt, her children, and her grandchildren. That's after Israeli airstrikes on residential blocks in southern Gaza killed at least 47 Palestinians, according to medics.
Looking at them, I don't know who to look at. They are too many. It is overwhelming. We don't know how to be sad anymore. Tears now barely come down.
Having subdued Gaza's north, Israel is now warning civilians to relocate as it prepares for an assault on Hamas in the enclave's south. Such an offensive could compel hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who have already relocated to move again, compounding a humanitarian crisis. Israel vowed to annihilate Hamas after its October 7th rampage into Israel, in which its fighters killed 1,200 people and took 240 hostages. Since then, much of Gaza City has been bombed to rubble. On Friday, Gaza health authorities raised their death toll to more than 12,000, including 5,000 children. The United Nations deems those figures credible. A recent focus of Israel's operation has been North Gaza's largest hospital, Al-Shifa. It claims the hospital sits above a vast Hamas bunker. Hamas and Al-Shifa have denied this. On Saturday, Palestinian officials and Israel's military gave conflicting accounts about evacuations of medical staff, patients and displaced people. Palestinian Health Minister Mayal Kaila said all except about 125 of an estimated 1,000 to 1,500 war-wounded or sick patients had been forced to leave. She said among those that remained were 34 premature babies, along with 5 doctors and a few nurses. Palestinian health officials in Gaza said evacuees from Al-Shifa were facing treks along dangerous, bombed-out roads littered with dead bodies. The Israeli army denied the Palestinian accounts. In a statement, it said its forces at Al-Shifa had acceded to a request from the hospital's director to expand and assist in further voluntary evacuations via a secure route. It said doctors and medics could stay to support patients too weak to be evacuated.
Meanwhile, Gaza's Nasser hospital faces a crisis with a surge in births, miscarriages and stillbirths during the conflict. Midwife Asama Keshta highlights the strain on services, attributing the increase to displacement. Look at this next report for more details.
At the Nasser hospital in southern Gaza, midwife Sama Keshta was in the middle of a 24-hour shift when she helped deliver twins to a mother who says she has been displaced after an airstrike destroyed her home. Keshta, herself 9 months pregnant when this footage was recorded in early November, says the war has severely strained hospital services for pregnant women and says she has seen increases in premature births, miscarriages, and stillbirths since the conflict began.
In the days before the war, we used to have in a period of 24 hours between 15 to 20 births. Now, with the war, the number of births has increased to 35 to 40 cases in 24 hours, maybe more. And there's been cases of miscarriage and stillbirth, apart from the births. The number of cases has increased because the number of displaced people has increased. The situation has gotten worse and the work has increased. It's become too much for our capabilities.
The director of the maternity and nursery department, Walid Abu Hattab, told Reuters that the 50,000 pregnant women in Gaza are in a health crisis, a number confirmed by UN agencies.
There's been a large increase in cases of miscarriage. When we compare it with the period before the war, we find that it has at least doubled, and therefore, unfortunately, there has been an increase in premature births. There's been an increase in depression among pregnant women, and all of this is one of the effects of the period of war.
Hattab said the hospital could only offer limited support for pregnant women and new mothers as it contends with a lack of medical staff and shortages of fuel for power. He says all pregnant women are at risk because of the collapse of primary health care and overburdened facilities. At Nasser Hospital, he says operating rooms intended for C-sections are being used to treat the injured from bombings. After Reuters first interviewed her in early November, Keshta has since given birth to a daughter. A day after the delivery, an ambulance dropped her as near to her home as it could, as streets were blocked because of the damage from airstrikes. When she's recovered, Keshta plans to return to work in the maternity ward at the Nasser Hospital if the war is over.
In Madrid, approximately 170,000 people marched against Spain's amnesty law, a concession made by Socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez. This is done to secure a 4-year term with the support of Catalan and Basque nationalist parties. Protesters waving Spanish flags and carrying signs reading "Sánchez traitor" and "Don't sell Spain" voiced concerns about the law's impact on the rule of law and separation of powers. Opposition leaders joined the rally organized by civil groups. Afterward, clashes between protesters and riot police ensued. Sánchez has defended the law, citing its potential to ease tensions in Catalonia despite public opposition. Only 51% of votes were called for unity, acknowledging a divided nation.
Liberia's President George Weah conceded election defeat on Friday following a tight race for the presidency. And that means former Vice President Joseph Boakai is set to take the reins. In a second round of voting, Boakai was leading with 50.9% on Friday, with nearly all the ballots counted.
Votes obtained 814,212.
That's a stark contrast to the last election in 2017, when global soccer legend Weah, buoyed by a wave of hope, trounced Boakai in the second round with 62%. But many have grown disillusioned with Weah since then, due to a lack of progress on his promises to stamp out corruption and raise living standards. Boracay supporters danced in the streets on Friday night.
I'm so glad today to tell Liberian people thank you very much.
Boracay does, however, now inherit major national challenges. Poverty levels are high in a country still recovering from 2 civil wars and the Ebola epidemic that killed thousands. Shortly after results were announced, Boracay said, "We have a job to do," but added that first and foremost, we want to have a message of peace and reconciliation. That message, in a once volatile country, was bolstered by Weir's concession. Speaking on the radio, he said that he had congratulated Boracay on his victory and that, "I urge you to follow my example and accept the results." Those comments stand out in Western Central Africa, a region that has seen 8 coups in 3 years and where elections are frequently contested in court amid accusations of fraud. Instead, the way has now been paved for Liberia's second democratic transfer of power in 7 decades. The first being when Weir swept to office 6 years ago.
War-torn Ukraine has started building underground schools in the Kharkiv region, which will allow children to return to in-person learning. This while the region faces the constant threat of Russian airstrikes.
Ukraine's Kharkiv region has started building underground schools. The heavily fortified structures will allow children to return to in-person learning, while the region faces the constant threat of Russian airstrikes. Schools in the eastern region, which borders Russia, had to resort to online learning after the February 2022 invasion. Kharkiv is frequently targeted by Russian missiles, drones and artillery. The governor reported on Thursday that in 24 hours, 3 different districts had been struck. The chief district architect, Anton Korotovsky, said 2 schools are currently under construction.
Вони можуть витримувати пряме влучання ракет С-300. Також розраховані десь на 500 чоловік кожна. Також вони будуть обладнані.
The structures could withstand direct hits from S-300 missiles. They are designed to accommodate up to 500 people each. They will also be adapted to be accessible for people with physical disabilities. There will be restrooms, independent power sources, diesel generators, water supply, sewage, and everything required for the education process.
He added that more of these schools, which act as bomb shelters, will be planned by the end of the year. The buildings will be equipped with necessities like ventilation, water and beds, so people can stay there for more than 1 day. Ukrainians are now bracing for another winter of possible Russian airstrikes targeting critical infrastructure. Last year, this caused widespread blackouts across the country.
SpaceX's Starship launch have seemingly failed, losing contact during the uncrewed mission. Elon Musk, SpaceX owner, plans to sue Media Matters for alleging false attacks, claiming a thermonuclear lawsuit.
The launch of SpaceX's uncrewed Starship was presumed to have failed on Saturday after contact with the uncrewed spacecraft was lost. But SpaceX's owner, Elon Musk, has vowed to launch something else on Monday, legal action against a liberal media watchdog. Musk announced on his social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter, that he would bring a thermonuclear lawsuit against Media Matters for America for what he called a fraudulent attack on his company. Media Matters has said it found corporate advertisements by IBM, Apple, Oracle and Comcast's Xfinity were being placed alongside anti-Semitic content. It's seen many other major brands, including Disney, pause advertising on the platform. Musk said in a statement that the watchdog had completely misrepresented the real experience on X and created and curated the posts to misinform advertisers and undermine freedom of speech. Media Matters did not immediately respond to an emailed request seeking comment outside of business hours. Advertisers have fled the site since Musk bought it last year and reduced content moderation, resulting in a sharp rise in hate speech, according to civil rights groups. Musk himself this week endorsed an anti-Semitic post on X that falsely claimed members of the Jewish community were stoking hatred against white people. White House spokesperson Andrew Bates on Friday condemned the endorsement of what it called a hideous anti-Semitic conspiracy theory and accused Musk of an abhorrent promotion of anti-Semitic and racist hate that runs against our core values as Americans.
Stage separation.
Boosting startup.
As for Saturday's launch, that was the second attempt to fly Starship mounted on its Tauri Super Heavy rocket booster. In April's attempt, the spacecraft exploded less than 4 minutes into the flight. About 10 minutes into the latest flight, a company broadcaster said SpaceX Mission Control had lost contact with the vehicle.
SpaceX's Starship designed for lunar missions faced a setback as its second test failed. The rocket lifting off from Texas saw its Super Heavy first stage explode over the Gulf of Mexico after separation, while contact was lost with the core Starship stage. SpaceX suspects an automated flight termination command was triggered. The mission aimed to reach space and return in a 90-minute test. The failure could impact SpaceX's plans for lunar missions with NASA, as Starship is crucial for Artemis, NASA's human spaceflight program. The FFA will oversee investigation into the incident.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff. Vehicle pitching downrange.
Chambers pressure nominal.
We are T plus 40 seconds into the flight of Starship. 33 Raptor engines powering the first.
Hundreds of workers at Starbucks are on a strike to demand an improvement in staffing and schedules at the workplace. They even walked off their jobs during a key promotional event to stress upon their demands. Our next report tells you more.
Workers at this New York Starbucks store and hundreds of other locations walked off their jobs during a key promotional event on Thursday. They demanded improved staffing and schedules, the Workers United Union said on social media platform X. The walkout came on the coffee chain's Red Cup Day event, during which Starbucks hands out free red-colored reusable holiday-themed cups to customers on their coffee purchases. Edwin Palma Solis is a Starbucks barista trainer.
We want to make sure that we have a better pay, staffing, scheduling, and we have the right amount of hours to work because they've been improperly staffing us. And sometimes it just makes it harder for us to work. You know, sometimes we feel like we work for 2 people instead of 1, and we're just tired. We're just really tired of overworking ourselves.
Starbucks said on Thursday its stores in the United States were open, adding that a few dozen stores were on strike. Red Cup Day has typically been a major driver of store traffic, with data from analytics company Placer.ai showing that visits to U.S. Starbucks stores on the same day last year jumped 94% over the daily average for the full year. Workers United, which represents more than 9,000 Starbucks employees at about 360 U.S. stores, has said the event was one of the most infamously hard, understaffed days, as drink orders pile up and employees end up on the receiving end of abuse from frustrated customers over long wait times. Earlier this month, Starbucks said it would raise hourly pay for its U.S. retail workers by at least 3% starting in 2024, which employees criticize, calling it tone-deaf, given Starbucks' 11% increase in fourth-quarter revenue and the recent wage hikes won by auto workers.
Rescue teams are in a race against time to free 40 construction workers trapped under debris for 8 days after a tunnel collapse. Let's take a look at the latest developments on the rescue operations. Authorities examine possibility of drilling from top of the tunnel. Army trying to construct a track to the top of the hill. US-made auger machine malfunctions. Also, PMO official takes charge of rescue operations. Chief Minister Dhami and Union Minister Gadkari review the relief work that has been going on. Trapped workers report respiratory issues. The Ministry of Road Transport and Highways has issued an explanatory video telling all about the tunnel collapse and what all steps are being taken to rescue the trapped workers. Take a look.
ये इस प्रकार की टनल बनाई जा रही थी। टनल हमेशा 2 पार्ट्स में बनती है, तो ये टनल करीब 4.48 किलोमीटर दूर है। इस शेप की टनल है, बीच की वॉल से वो सेपरेटेड होनी है। अभी अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन टनल थी। ये सिलक्यारा का सिरा है, सिलक्यारा एंड है। पहले 80 मीटर टनल बन चुकी है पूरी, मतलब अंदर पूरी सीमेंट कंक्रीट भी हो चुकी है, उसको फिनिश टनल है। इस 80 मीटर में कोई इशू नहीं। इस 80 मीटर से लेके लगभग 300 मीटर तक के पॉइंट पर बीच में जियोलॉजी थोड़ी सी वीक थी, तो करीब 4-4.5 साल पहले इसके ऊपर जो स्टेबलाइजेशन के लिए लेटेस्ट फ्रेमवर्क होता है वो लगा के छोड़ा गया था। उसके बाद से 300 मीटर से लेके अगले 2 किलोमीटर टनल पूरी तरीके से फिनिश हो चुकी है। उसमें इवन ये जो हम लोग सेपरेशन वॉल करके अलग 2 टनल बनाते हैं जिससे कि एक टनल का एस्केप टनल दूसरी हो जाए, वो भी बन चुकी है। इस 2 किलोमीटर के उसमें पूरी तरीके से फिनिश्ड है। कंक्रीट स्ट्रक्चर है तो सेफ स्ट्रक्चर। और उसके बाद करीब 480 मीटर का इलाका भी वहां पे हटाया नहीं गया। और उसके बाद करीब 1.7 किलोमीटर की जो टनल है वो भी उसकी फिनिशिंग स्टेज पर है, क्योंकि पिछले 4-4.5 साल से यहाँ पर कोई जमीन का मूवमेंट नहीं देखा गया था। सब जगह लेटेस्ट फ्रेमवर्क लगा के सेंसर्स लगाए जाते हैं, तो उस वजह से इन्होंने इस पे फाइनल फिनिश करने के लिए, कंक्रीटिंग करने के लिए कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स जो हैं उन्होंने काम शुरू करने की बात की, तो उससे मक पूरी नीचे गिर गई। वो मूवमेंट हुआ उसमें, जबकि वो 4.5 साल से स्टेबल था। पर फॉर्चुनेटली, हालांकि पूरी घटना बहुत अनफॉर्चुनेट है, बट उसकी जो फॉर्चुनेट पार्ट है कि ये 2 किलोमीटर जो है ये पूरी तरीके से फिनिश टनल है, इसलिए इसमें जो है अदरवाइज कोई और खतरा नहीं। तो जितना जल्दी से जल्दी हम इनको निकालेंगे वो उतना अच्छी बात है। इस पर्टिकुलर पोर्शन में पानी का इंतजाम है, नल गया हुआ है, बिजली गई हुई है, तो बिजली पानी है। अब ये जो हमारी 4 इंच की पाइपलाइन है, उसके अलावा उनकी लाइफ सिक्योर करने के लिए, सामान और खाने का बेहतर ढंग से भेजने के लिए यहीं पर एक 6 इंच का पाइपलाइन जिसकी कि लोकल मशीन्स अवेलेबल हैं, उस पर काम शुरू कर दिया है। पर इस पहाड़ के ऊपर जाने के लिए सड़क बनानी पड़ेगी। पहाड़ के ऊपर जाने के लिए सड़क बनानी पड़ेगी। सड़क बनाने का काम बीआरओ कर रहा है। कल ही जब ये सुबेरे फैसला हुआ, शाम तक बीआरओ ने इस पॉइंट तक पहुंचने के लिए 50% के करीब सड़क रात में पूरी कर दी है। उम्मीद है आज शाम तक उनकी सड़क बन जाएगी। उसके बाद ये जो लाइफ लाइन के एडिशनल सपोर्ट के लिए वो काम हम लोग शुरू कर पाएंगे। इसके बाद ये जो इसका टनल का लेफ्ट हैंड है, वहां से एक हॉरिजॉन्टल बोर करने के लिए आरवीएनएल को काम कहा गया, और ये लाइफ लाइन सपोर्ट का काम आरवीएनएल कर रहे हैं ऊपर। तो ये एक माइक्रो टनलिंग मशीन होती है, उसके थ्रू वो 170 मीटर दूर जगह है, वहां से वो अप्रोच करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। ये जो सो कॉल्ड अनसेफ इलाका था, हम लोगों ने साथ में सारे इंजीनियर्स के बैठ के कहा कि इसके कोई सॉल्यूशंस निकाले जाएं। तो एक टेक्निकल सॉल्यूशन निकाला कि वहाँ एक कैनोपी क्रिएट कर दी जाए जिससे कि वर्कर सेफ हो जाए। आर्मी के लोग भी वहाँ पहुँच गए हैं और वो वहाँ पे एक सेफ पैसेज जो प्री कास्ट कल्वर्ट्स का होता है वो क्रिएट कर रहे हैं। तो एक बार वो हो जाएगा और ये कैनोपी बन जाएगी, तो उसके बाद हम पाइप लाइन का काम पाइप के थ्रू दोबारा शुरू कर देंगे, और वो सक्सेसफुल हो गया तो बहुत रिलेटिवली जल्दी सफल हो सकता है। बट दैट वी आर वर्किंग इन ए वेरी डेंजरस जोन, उतना हमने रियलाइज करना है, इसीलिए बाकी ऑप्शंस पे हमने साथ के साथ काम शुरू कर दिया।
As the ethnic strife in Manipur continues, 10 political parties have urged the state governor Anusuya Uike to initiate peace talks between the warring groups. Led by Congress leader O. Ibobi Singh, the delegation emphasized the need for central intervention, specifically from Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in order to restore peace. The all-party group approached the governor, urging her to initiate peace talks. Governor Uike assured them of taking steps for dialogue and submitting reports on the unrest to central leaders. Now, it's important to note here that the meet comes in the backdrop of heightened tensions amid indigenous tribal leaders' forum's threat. The delegation met the governor after ITLF, a frontal organization of Kuki-Zu tribes in Manipur, threatened to establish a self-governed separate administration in areas where these tribes have a majority. The delegation comprised representatives of AAP, AIFP, AITC, CPI, CPIM, JDU, NCP, RSP and SSUBT. The state government has strongly condemned the indigenous tribal leader forum call for self-governed separate administration in districts dominated by members of the Kuki-Zu community and termed it as illegal. An FIR was also filed against an office bearer of the ITLF in Churachandpur police station. In a historic moment, the Constitution of India will be published in Maithili script. This landmark achievement not only promotes the Manipuri script, but also gives the speakers of Manipuri language or Maithilon a door to the Indian Constitution. Manipur government suspends internet services till November 23rd. The Manipur government has suspended internet services until November 23 due to recent events. Manipur has remained gripped by recurring bouts of violence since ethnic clashes first erupted in May. More than 180 people have been killed since then. The Uttar Pradesh government has imposed an immediate ban on products with the Halal certification tag, citing confusion over food quality and asserting that only authorities can determine food standards. The official order says that Halal certification of food products is a parallel system which creates confusion regarding the quality of food items and is not tenable under Section 89. The ban covers the production, storage, distribution and sale of Halal certified food products within the state. The government has emphasized upon the illegality of Halal certification for medicines, medical devices and cosmetics, alleging a large-scale conspiracy to exploit religious sentiments and boost sales. The move follows a police case against entities providing forged Halal certificates. The ban excludes products manufactured for export. Halal certification ensures adherence to Islamic dietary laws. The Bharatiya Janata Party unveiled its manifesto for the 2023 Telangana Assembly election, outlining 25 significant promises. Among these commitments were the elimination of the 4% reservation for Muslims in the state, the proposal of a backward class chief minister, the provision of 4 free gas cylinders, measures to alleviate the impact of high petrol and diesel prices, and the establishment of an NRI, non-resident Indian ministry aimed at assisting Telangana residents in other countries. Amit Shah, the Union Home Minister and BJP leader, declared the party's resolve to designate the next Chief Minister of Telangana from the backward class. This decision, he explained, was made to ensure social justice for the backward classes and to empower their aspiration. Here's a list of some other key promises made by BJP. Pledge to eliminate 4% Muslim reservation, emphasizing increase in backward class and SC/ST quotas. Beneficiaries of the Ujjwala Yojana promised 4 free gas cylinders annually. Implementation of the Uniform Civil Code within 6 months. Fixed deposit of 2 lakh for the birth of a girl child and loan at a 1% interest for women self-help groups. Hyderabad Liberation Day and Razakar Vibhishika Smriti Divas to be officially celebrated. Zero tolerance against corruption. BJP commits to reducing petrol and diesel prices by cutting VAT. Financial assistance of 2,500 per acre for farmers and benefits under PM Fasal Bima Yojana. Free laptops for those pursuing degree or professional courses. Employment for 2.5 million youth in the next 5 years. The Maldives government under new President Mohamed Moizu has officially asked India to withdraw its military presence from the country. Moizu formally made the request when he met India's Union Minister Kiren Rijiju after his swearing-in ceremony. The withdrawal of foreign troops from the archipelago has been one of the key promises of the new president, and he had reiterated his resolve to do so in his first speech to the nation after being sworn in. Without naming India, Moizu had said the country will not have any foreign military personnel in the Maldives. India has around 70 soldiers in Maldives who are responsible for manning radar and surveillance aircrafts. Indian warships also help patrol Maldives' exclusive economic zone. Sources in the Ministry of External Affairs in India have said that workable solutions regarding the issue are being discussed between the two governments. The Bolivia's Amazon raging wildfires have now encroached upon nature reserves and indigenous communities, devastating wildlife and claiming numerous animal lives. Disturbing videos from local authorities depict the aftermath, revealing the loss of deer, tapirs, rodents and diverse bird species due to carbon monoxide poisoning. In the village of Bibosi, volunteers battled the flames with water hoses, but the region's recent drought hampers firefighting efforts by diminishing river water levels. The Bolivian Environment Ministry reports over 96,686 fire outbreaks in November alone. Amidst the crisis, environmental activists in Bolivia's capital demand urgent measures to address the destructive fires. Iceland is preparing for a likely volcanic eruption amid growing underground lava flows and intensifying seismic activity. The country is on an alert after a number of earthquakes hit the island nation, leading to giant cracks ripping through the ground. Our next report tells you more.
Steam rising from giant cracks that have ripped through Grindavik, Iceland, could be seen from a Coast Guard helicopter on Friday. The country is preparing for what experts believe is a likely volcanic eruption on the Reykjanes Peninsula, amid growing underground lava flows and intensifying seismic activity.
From midnight to about 8 o'clock this morning, there were, I think, 600 new earthquakes. So the outlook is rather bleak, in my opinion.
Geophysicist Ari Trausti Gudmundsson says the probability of an eruption is high.
People now wait in anxiety what is going to happen to the town. If the eruption really occurs, it could spare the town to a large extent. It could also, the lava flow, simply bury the town. So we don't know really which scenario is the most likely one.
Aerial views of the nearby Blue Lagoon, one of Iceland's most famous tourist attractions, showed the geothermal spa completely deserted. Authorities have evacuated nearly 4,000 people from the area and were preparing to construct a large dike designed to divert lava flows around a geothermal power plant that provides hot water to the entire peninsula.
Check the news. I've been expecting it to start.
Evacuees wanting to go back into town to pick up belongings on Thursday had to queue at a roadblock before they were either driven into Grindavik in emergency vehicles or accompanied by emergency personnel.
It's like sitting in a very boring movie, but you're stuck there. You can't get out of it. It's unreal. It's hard to digest.
Other residents also said the waiting for the eruption was the worst part.
My house is okay, but it's on the red area, so it has collapsed. The earth has collapsed about 1 meter or something. We don't know if we're going to have a home or what, because if it doesn't erupt, we don't know anything.
Kenya's landfills are seeing a rise in plastic waste, even as several countries are coming together to discuss a global treaty on plastic pollution. Locals in Kenya are also contributing in the fight against plastic pollution. Our next report tells you about how a local company is switching to eco-friendly packaging, highlighting the growing trend of producers taking responsibility for product disposal. Take a look.
This is Kenya's Dandora landfill, Nairobi's main dumping ground, and one of the largest landfills in the world. It's filled with single-use plastic, despite major steps taken in recent years by Kenya to reduce its environmental footprint. The country is urging for a strong, binding agreement on plastics as international delegates gather there to discuss creating the first ever treaty to contain plastic pollution. Locals say a shift in mindset is already happening. In 2017, Kenya imposed the world's toughest law against plastic bags. Kenyans producing, selling, or even using plastic bags risk imprisonment of up to 4 years or fines of $40,000. It recently expanded its waste management law, which now puts the responsibility on producers to properly dispose of their products instead of consumers. Kenyan dairy products firm Biofoods has embraced the new legislation. It's replaced its white PET polyethylene terephthalate milk bottles to clear ones. Rosalind Raru is head of sustainability at the company.
We've gotten very positive feedback from the recyclers because it's more recyclable than the previous white PET that we were using.
Dominic Kagwe's company is among those recyclers.
Clear PET is a better devil to live with because we can easily be able to fully recycle it and get it back into the market, avoiding virgin products coming into the market.
According to the Environmental Investigation Agency, virgin plastics have reached unsustainable levels. It remains a significant environmental issue in Kenya, but Raru says the recent legislation is helping shift Kenyans' mindsets.
A couple of years ago, when we tried out this project, we didn't get as much positive feedback as we're getting from the consumers right now, which for us just proves that our customer base and the Kenyans in general have become more environment conscious.
Taylor Swift postponed her Rio show due to extreme heat. A day after a fan's death, Ana Clara Benavides, 23, fell ill during Friday's concert and later died. Rio hits record heat index. Saturday's show has been rescheduled to Monday amid concerns over fans' well-being in scorching temperatures.
Taylor Swift fans in Rio de Janeiro waited in line in the extreme heat to see the pop superstar perform on Saturday. But her show was postponed due to the scorching heat, a day after the death of a fan who fell ill in the sweltering concert venue. Swift notified her fans of the postponed show in an Instagram post about 2 hours before she was due to go on stage, saying, quote, "The safety and well-being of my fans, fellow performers, and crew has to and always will come first." 23-year-old Ana Clara Benavides became unwell during Friday's show, according to event organizers. She died later at the hospital. Rio's State Health Service said her cause of death was not yet known and will be investigated. Fan Lara Ida said Swift interrupted her performance to give water to the audience, and that if authorities had taken initiative from the start of the show, Benavides' death could have been prevented. Unfortunately, someone had to die for them to think about us, she says. Some 60,000 fans had gathered for Swift's sellout concert at the stadium, which is located far from Rio's breezy picture postcard beaches in a hotter northern neighborhood. Friday's show took place on the same day Rio recorded its highest ever reading of the so-called heat index, which combines temperatures and humidity at over 138 degrees Fahrenheit.
The first part of the final season of the Netflix show The Crown has released. The last season will revolve around the tragic death of Princess Diana. Elizabeth Debicki, who is portraying the character of Princess Diana, sees the role as a serious endeavor and acknowledges the cultural impact the show has had. Take a look.
The physical reality of what it feels like to be in a car being pursued like that through the day and in the evening, the relentlessness of that, it was a profound sense of tragedy that lives in your body when you play that part of the story.
You okay?
I'm okay.
It's just...
And then there's this very real sense of responsibility that is both external but also something I put on myself, a pressure I put on myself, to do the best possible job. And in this case, I guess that ends up equating to being as authentic as you can.
And right down the center, guys. Those smiles here.
Dashing around and losing sight.
This is a cultural trauma that millions of people around the world experience and cried about and have done for 26 years, and so it has a certain sacredness, and so you have to treat it with that dignity and respect, and in order to honour it, and we went on that journey together, kind of catching it and finding it.
It's a wrap for now. Thank you for watching News9 Live.
They picked my husband. He was tortured there for 2 years. He was enforced disappeared. We had no idea where he is. Within 15 minutes, we got the information that the whole area is surrounded by Pakistan Army. I came out from that in disguise, and after 5 to 6 hours, I was in Kandahar. I don't have any message for Pakistan. There is no politician in Pakistan. They are puppets of Pakistan Army.
Streaming now. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
मैं तो चलिया विदेश
No, it's not a story of diversity in India. It's about a burning desire to leave the country, whatever it takes.
जो मिट्टी वाला जो टंकी है ना जे इंग्लैंड में है सभी और कनाडा में भी है जी सभी फैमिली। साथ वाली बाइट में है वो इंग्लैंड में है अभी कि वो जो बाज बैठा हो ना जहाँ ईगल वो लड़का डिपोर्ट होकर आया ऐसे अब 20 साल बाद।
They polish their English and sometimes adapt a British or American twang.
जासू, bonjour, bonjour, hola.
My name is Surina. I want to go to apply for Australia.
To earn enough for a luxurious life. But this dream comes at a price. Often dreamers end up paying for it with their lives.
Whenever anything happens, right, there will be very dark underbelly of it.
You're aware of these donkey routes and donkers where people are getting money, selling their lands, putting things in mortgage in India and giving it to people who are acting as middlemen and consultants to ship them to various countries.
The number has increased a lot. If I see a data from the government sources, 3,000 plus was in 2016 only for USA. It jumped to 16,000, 4 times more than that in the last year, into 2020 you can say. Punjab and Haryana are the topmost 2 states, and both of them are very rich and fertile in agricultural production.
Broadly, Punjab is divided into 3 regions: the Malwa, the Doaba and the Majha. Traditionally, Malwa has larger land holdings and businesses have prospered. The residents of Majha have smaller holdings and a more radical mindset. Doaba is the region that's inhabited by wealthy traders and has been the hub for a thriving illegal immigration business, started almost 50 years ago.
I am currently standing at the bus stand area of Jalandhar, also known as the NRI hub. This has more than 946 immigration companies, aisle center and air ticketing offices. Now speaking to people from the ground as well as law enforcement officials in Jalandhar, we have come across few interesting developments in the recent years, especially after the pandemic. First, there has been at least 40% increase in the last 1 year when it comes to illegal immigration across Punjab. Second, a 25% increase in the dropout rate. Children have been dropping out, especially in the higher education category, as it has seeped inside their minds that this land of 5 rivers has nothing to offer when it comes to job prospects or any other alternative career they want to pursue.
पॉलिटिशियन इतनी गंदी है और नशा इतना बढ़ चुका है, उसकी वजह से सभी बाहर जा रहे हैं और किसी को जॉब नहीं मिल रही। पढ़ भी ले रहे हैं अच्छे लोग, जो हमारे जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट होशियारपुर है ना, होशियारपुर पढ़े लोगों की पूरे पंजाब में माना जाता है। जहाँ से मैंने मेरे मासी का लड़का था, उसका दोस्त था एक, जॉर्जिया में रह रहा था, तो उसने बोला भाई अगर तुम जहाँ पे आएगा तो जहाँ से तुम आगे शायद मूव हो जाएगा, आगे को जा सकता है, बेटर अपॉर्चुनिटी है जहाँ पे। मैंने उस टाइम मुझे भी नहीं मालूम था। चलो उसके बाद 4.5 लाख रुपया ला के मैंने स्टडी के लिए वहाँ पे गया और 6 महीने की स्टडी की वहाँ पे। तो उसके बाद चलो मैं स्टडी भी ख़त्म हो चुकी, तो फिर भी जॉब उधर ट्राई करने लगा, तो जॉब भी नहीं मिली। तो एजेंट को 3000 दिया और उसके बाद मैंने बस के नीचे इलीगल रास्ते से इस्तांबुल गया। और जो बस का रास्ता था वो इतना डिफ़िकल्ट था जाने के लिए, क्योंकि बस के नीचे था, सीटों के नीचे था और वो बहुत डेंजरस था। बाद हम फिर इस्तांबुल गए। इस्तांबुल हमने कम से कम 25 डेज़ वहाँ पे स्टे किया। उसके बाद उन्होंने शिफ्ट आगे कर दिया, इलीगल रास्ते से ही जा रहे थे हम। छोटी वैन के अंदर 40 बंदे थे जैसे ऐसे कम। तो उन्होंने हमारे ग्रीस को बॉर्डर के पास ले गए और वहाँ पे जो स्पीड बोट की वजह से वहाँ से उन्होंने पार लगा दिया। और वहाँ भी डिफ़िकल्ट था, दलदली रास्ता था, ख़तरा था, भूखे थे और बहुत तकलीफ, जंगल से जा रहे थे ना, बहुत मुश्किल था। तुर्की और ग्रीस का बॉर्डर क्रॉस करके हम ग्रीस में एंटर हुए। तो उसके बाद हमें पुलिस वहाँ पे किसी ने लड़के ने देखा और पुलिस को इन्फॉर्म